Did Najee Harris's value go up or did it go down after his signing by the Los Angeles Chargers? Plus, Evan Engram, how does he factor in not only to redraft but dynasty tight ends after he moves from Jacksonville to Denver? And we will discuss the move from Justin Fields from Ohio State to Chicago to Pittsburgh and now New York Jets as he is the new quarterback there. To throw to Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin, and so much more. What do you do with him in Superflex Dynasty Leagues and much more? We've got a great show for you. We have Ferrell Elliott here. I am Eric Balkman. This is the High Stakes Fantasy Footballer, and it officially starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour for Friday, March 14th, 2025. I am your host, Eric Balkman. You know me from the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show on the Better Sports Network. You also know me from the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. And, of course, the Fantasy Football Players Championship over at myffpc.com. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. He is Ferrell Elliott. He will be joining me shortly. Coming up on tonight's show, we got a lot to get to. I think Sigmund Bloom from Football Guys always puts this best. Once Monday afternoon came, we were drinking from the fire hose. A lot of stuff going on in the NFL, and quite frankly, a lot of stuff that we have to unpack for fantasy football purposes. We're going to talk about the Bills wide receiver core. They've extended Khalil Shakir. They've added Joshua Palmer. What does that mean with Keon Coleman? Chris Godwin is still a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. What does that mean for Mike Evans? We're going to talk about Anthony Richardson now that he has competition with Daniel Jones in Indianapolis, plus so much more. We'll talk about the DK Metcalf trade, the Sam Darnold signing, Elijah Mitchell, and a ton more tonight on the show. If you are looking to put the advice that we're going to be giving to you to good use, feel free to play in the FFPC Never Too Early Best Ball and Superflex Best Ball tournaments. Both of those competitions will close. I'm challenging my math right now. Little bit less than 6 weeks from now. 6 weeks from yesterday, they will close. And that is if they have not reached capacity. So if you want to play in the FFPC Never Too Early Best Ball and Superflex Best Ball tournaments, they will close the first day of the NFL draft, hosted by beautiful Green Bay, Wisconsin, coming up April 24th, 2025. The Superflex Best Ball tournament will have a $10,000 grand prize at a $35 entry fee. The Never Too Early regular Best Ball tournament will have a $40,000 grand prize at a $125 entry fee. You can draft with 30-second, 60-second, 2-hour, and 6-hour clocks available at myffpc.com. We'll be talking a lot of Dynasty tonight, and if the Dynasty fever has hit you, we have the cure. Go to myffpc.com. There are a ton of Dynasty Orphan Teams that are available for as little as $1. A lot of those teams have had their entry fees lowered for 2025. They normally range between $77 and $5,000. And we are looking at reduced entry fees for all of those right now. 1,800 plus leagues over 15 years, and not a single one has ever folded. myffpc.com is where to go for that, as well as the Big Gorilla Tournament. Yeah, that's right. The formerly Football Guys, formerly Fantasy Pros Tournament is now known as the Big Gorilla Tournament. $1 million grand prize available to you now. A $350 entry fee with a three-pack for $1,000 available now. Drafts already running, both slow and live. Early Rampage, 7 Bananas promos. Check that out at myffpc.com. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, share, and get notified each and every time we go live right here on this here channel on the FFPC YouTube and the FFPC socials. I've been talking way too much. Let's bring him in right now, the commissioner of fantasy football, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. Follow him at jferrellelliott, at KFFSC official on the X. Ferrell Elliott, welcome aboard tonight, my friend. How's it going?
Balky, what a lovely introduction. Thank you very, very much. I wish you would share with the viewers sometime tonight the picture that from the KFFSC contest in 2019, the picture that I sent you this week. What a precociously handsome young man you were then. And not that the kind of guy you are today is not handsome. Yeah. It's just it was just a fresh look back into history. And it's interesting here on this early to mid March Madness, the divisional basketball conferences. That's what they call it. Conferences that, our first two guys that log in are good Kentuckians, Hicks and Christian. God bless them. We're known as a basketball state, but not tonight, Balky. The guys are here to hear you. That's what's up.
Well, they're here to hear me. And then I also want to give, as long as Scott Christian's hanging out and James Hicks are hanging out, they want to hear from Oinker. And Oinker is giving his blessing on the show tonight.
There you go.
Very excited to be joining us and Scott and Hicks and Christian, as you would call them. To me, Scott Christian, by the way, saying, I'm going to throw it up in the YouTube chat right now. It is always a good night when Balky and Ferrell talk football. Well, without further ado, what are we doing? Keeping Christian and Hicks waiting. Let's talk fantasy football.
Okay, what you got?
Najee Harris is no longer a Steeler.
How sweet it is.
He is now a Los Angeles Charger. This, according to Tom Pelissero, it is a 1-year pact between the Chargers and Najee Harris. We have found out that he can make up to $9.25 million. I believe the guarantee is like right around $4 or $5 million here. Harris is obviously going to be the number one option in Los Angeles, as opposed to Gus Edwards, as opposed to J.K. Dobbins, as opposed to Kamani Vidal, who a lot of people thought Vidal would be the number one guy sometimes last year as well. Not only 2025, but a lot of people thought he would be the guy in 2024.
I don't know why, but they did think that.
They did, yeah. It is what it is. Every single year that Harris has been in the NFL, he has topped 1,000 yards rushing. However, his rookie season was his highest with 1,043 yards. This is what the pundits will say is not sexy. It is not enticing. And yet we see Harris, a guy who has been able to churn out yardage in Pittsburgh over the first 4 years of his career, go to a team that loves running the football and probably will not have Dobbins, and for sure will not, I shouldn't say for sure will not have Gus Edwards, but we know they've cut ties with Edwards and they have not yet re-signed Dobbins. Yeah. If we are looking at the I'll tell you what, let's as far as this goes tonight, let's look at the big gorilla tournament, ADP.
The gorilla?
The gorilla, which is of course available at fantasymojo.com. Darren Armani, the godfather of the Pros versus Joes, and anytime we cite any ADP with the FFPC, it's always due to Darren Armani. Right now, Najee Harris is going as running back number 30 at the 809. Now, some of those, this is over the last week, Ferrell, so some of those happened before he signed with the Chargers. Your thoughts on Harris? He's running back 30 right now at the 809. That's a fine value, but how high is he going to go in your opinion? And how high is too high? Would you take him as a top 15, a top 20, a top 25 running back? Where does Ferrell Elliott fall in on Najee Harris, the Charger?
Well, I think I'm going to fall in very nicely with Najee Harris and all those guys that took a risk, saw into the future, and selected him in the 8th round or thereabouts. And I guess since that's the average position, that half of the drafters drafted him behind that number. So you're on your way to big victory. Yeah, we say that this is not a sexy thing. Well, it is for Harbaugh. Harbaugh was recruiting this kid when he was at Antioch High School. Harbaugh was trying to get him into his college. This goes way, way back. We all know what this player can do. We all know what Harbaugh wants to do with the ball. We know that fantasy players, there's not a whole lot I can add. How good is he going to be here? Balky, you may not know this, but I grew up in the South. And we ate a lot of cornbread. Cornbread. Sometimes when there was only cornmeal, salt, and water, it was actually corn pone. It looks like pancakes, And, that was a staple. And it was wonderful. It's crunchy and warm, and it's great. After a few days, it gets a little hard. It goes from crunchy to hard. The way you've got to get it down then is you got to decide what you've got is not as good as what you had, and you got to drown it in buttermilk. You got to get out the buttermilk. And when it comes to Najee Harris, the Chargers are nothing but gallons and gallons of buttermilk, man. It's going to be fantastic. I'm so excited for this player. He gets to return to California. He gets to play in a tremendous situation where he is no longer, the Steelers used to be the pride of football broadcasting, but that's a 1:00 game most of the time now with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
He gets to go to Los Angeles, and he gets to elevate a team that may not draw well, but they're still that's a primetime team for our football purposes. So I love it. He's he's getting better over time.
The one thing I want to bring up with you, Ferrell, knowing how deep this rookie running back class is, we need to understand, or at least I have taken the stance of this does not guarantee Najee Harris, the fact that they've signed him early in free agency, this does not guarantee him a 3-down bell cow role with the Chargers. I could easily see Los Angeles investing, knowing that Dobbins and Edwards are probably not going to be back with the team, and Vidal is just, to me, a jag, just a guy at this point. I look at day 2 with the Chargers as a big day for Najee Harris. I look at even day 3, round 4, as a big round for the Chargers. I don't think that the fact that they have signed Harris, to me, as much as I like this situation for him better than I did in Pittsburgh, sharing the backfield with Jaylen Warren, I don't think this necessarily guarantees him a bell cow role. And I would be, if I'm drafting right now until, the NFL draft starts, which is a little bit less than 6 weeks, I think I have to draft Harris in the back of my mind, knowing that there could be another guy that comes into this backfield to take away maybe as much as 45% of his volume.
No. Harris has been around a long time. He's only 27 years old. Yep. He's benefited from the fact that he has split time before it and other backs. That's a difference between the way that Pittsburgh is coached and the way that the Chargers are coached. You're looking at a 250 carry season from this player, Balkman.
Regardless of if whoever.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
There'll be another guy that'll collect 100 touches if they're successful in the draft. He's going to catch some passes too. It's this is one of the best landing spots of a running back that you could possibly have. And in a year when the running backs are not paid a lot to move, the numbers that are here in this contract represent how much they think of the player.
Cullen Hoffman, chiming in on YouTube, said that he got him in the 8-11 in a big gorilla draft right before he signed with the Chargers, and he says he feels pretty good about it. Yeah, I would feel pretty good about that too, Cullen. This is why Cullen, who's been on this show multiple times, he knows what he's doing, and clearly this is proof positive of why
he's in the buttermilk. That's a team name for you, Balky.
In the buttermilk. I'm adding. Hold on. I got to find a pen. I'm going to write this down right now. Team name for me in the KFFSC in 2025 in the buttermilk.
Yeah, we got to get Cullen over in Kentucky too, by the way.
Cullen and I can road trip down.
That's what I'm saying.
We live like 10 minutes away from each other, so I'm definitely down for that.
We'll get to meet him at Mile of Music. At least I will.
Oh, that is actually a great idea. That we can get Cullen coming out for Mile of Music in glorious Appleton, Wisconsin, coming up in the first weekend of August this year. Cullen,
I think all the listeners should come there.
Everybody,
a live studio audience for our podcast, and then we go to some of the greatest night spots in Appleton and enjoy the music and the beer and the cheese curds and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think and you, Ferrell, you would know better than me on this. As far as this is and I don't want to turn this into a Mile of Music commercial because this is not paid, but Mile of Music in downtown Appleton will stretch over I don't know how many city blocks, but there are hundreds of artists that come from all over the country. It's an international, quite frankly, an international festival. There are no cover songs. that are allowed to be played. You have to play your own original music. And basically that weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all the way up to Sunday night, it is all original artists, all playing their own wares, all locally, and it's all free, which is fantastic. I don't know of another festival like that in the country.
It's nothing like it in the whole United States. And Balky, don't you be yelling for Freebird again like you did last time.
that was a different festival. No.
That was you, boy. I turned around, I knew that was you.
So anybody who follows me on X, like my cover photo on there is two guys on either side of me. One guy wearing a T-shirt that says "Play Freebird," the other guy saying "Freebird is overrated." That was at Oktoberfest, the second largest. That is the second largest music festival in Appleton, Wisconsin. So that did not happen at Mile of Music, although it probably could have.
Now you're out of sync again with your voice and your speaking.
I'm sorry.
And well, it's real interesting because our football people will think you're going to start talking about Godzilla next.
That's very, very possible.
There.
I'm going to be talking about Godzilla in the tight ends room of the Denver Broncos.
Okay.
Evan Engram has signed a 2-year, $23 million contract with Denver. He is going to be moving from northern Florida to the Mile High City, according to Ian Rappaport. This frees up $6 million in cap space for the Jaguars. This was a bad season for Engram. It was a season that he was coming off of a 114 catch a year for the Jaguars, and then he gets hurt quite a bit this past year. Something that has followed him from his time with New York and then to his time in Jacksonville. But now he gets to be the joker for Sean Payton in Denver. He signs on there. Bo Nix is an up-and-coming quarterback. The Denver Broncos offense looks up-and-coming. Quite frankly, the team in general looks pretty up-and-coming.
Yeah.
$16.5 million in guaranteed money. Ferrell, I am quite comfortable taking Evan Engram as a top 10 tight end this year. Am I wrong? How do you feel about him?
No, you're in a good place with that, Balky. And it's, we talked on the last show about landing spots. And in Ingram's situation, we talked about how he would really need to be a slot receiver. He really needs to play like Brock Bowers to get those numbers. I never dreamed that he would end up with this Denver team, and how fascinating that is. And it's great for him. We've seen it for him. I came to this player late, and I'm all in on him now. However, I'm even just as much excited about what it's going to do for the young quarterback. You mentioned it. I'll take it further. The maturation of this player is brought about by the veterans that are around him. And they don't have, they got young players in the backfield. They haven't had this kind of mix. This adds to this mix. I really like what happens with Bo Nix here.
So this is not only a boon for Engram. You're liking Nix more. Because
I am, and there's a quarterback I'm sure that Armani will let us know is going later in the draft than a number of quarterbacks. He has to be around the middle, maybe top 10, maybe 12 or 13. But I just love it.
Farrell, I'm about to blow your mind here.
You're gonna, yeah.
So put a cap on whatever you have.
Okay.
You said quarterback 12 or 13 for Nix now, right? Okay. So quarterback 13 is Goff.
Oh yeah.
Quarterback 12 is May. We go up to 11. It's Caleb Williams. Herbert is at 10.
Okay.
Kyler Murray, quarterback 9. Baker Mayfield, quarterback 8. Bo Nix, currently sitting at quarterback 7 in the Big Gorilla tournament right now. Bo Nix going at the 902. Okay, this is a full round after Patrick Mahomes. It is roughly 3 or 4 picks ahead of Baker Mayfield. So there are plenty of people that are buying into Bo Nix right now. And this is one of those things where I like Nix. I like the Broncos offense. I don't know if I want to pay that high a spot, even with the Evan Engram signing. I think I'd be more willing to wait on quarterback there, let somebody else take Nix, and maybe I grab Murray, maybe I grab Herbert or Goff or May, or a combination of 2 of those guys. That seems awfully rich for Bo Nix in the early 9th round at quarterback 7.
What we saw at the end of the season last year that's why the drafters are excited about this player. And you want this player, and 7 sounds too high, but if you're paying a 9th round draft spot for, then it's not too high. And especially we're in a best ball situation where you can put him with 2 or 3. You know, Balky, the overhand throwing motion is life itself. It's what got us out of the cave. The caveman. Don't take that personally based on appearance or anything, but that's what, you know, when we crawled out of the caves, that's what allowed us the tools to kill bigger animals and have the overhand throwing motion development of the prefrontal cortex. If you don't have your quarterbacks right, your fantasy team will look like you have an undeveloped prefrontal cortex. So I'm saying go ahead, spend what you want on the quarterbacks you love, get 3 good ones. Nix is going to score for you most of the time, and Ingram's going to make it happen for him.
That is Ferrell's take on Bo Nix and Evan Ingram. Quite frankly, I don't think I'm that far off from it as well. I do want to talk about another quarterback who just changed teams before we get to Prison Mike himself, who is going to be joining us on the show tonight. The one, the only, and incomparable Derek Cadavid. Justin Fields, no longer in Pittsburgh. We just talked about Najee Harris leaving Pittsburgh. Justin Fields has also left Pittsburgh for the quote-unquote green pastures of the New York Jets over at Jet Life Stadium. 2 years, $40 million is the contract, according to Adam Schefter of ESPN. $30 million guaranteed. There is an out after the 2025 season if the Jets want to move on, or maybe Fields wants to move on. 3 years was what he lasted in Chicago, and in his 4th year in the league, he was benched by his second team. He threw 5 picks and 5 touchdowns and 1 pick in 6 starts to open the year when Russell Wilson wasn't healthy enough to play. However, there was a catering to Justin Fields' not only strengths but weaknesses with Pittsburgh last year. Russell Wilson became the starter, and he never surrendered that for the remainder of the season. There are not any other options, quite frankly, in New York at quarterback other than Fields. He could and probably should get a full season as the starter there. He is going to have a backfield that features Breece Hall. He is going to have a wide receiver core that features Garrett Wilson, and we'll see what happens going forward. Ferrell, what I love about Justin Fields is that even if he can't throw the ball into the ocean, dude still has superior legs. And I know, like, I talk to a lot of high stakes players in the FFPC. I talk to a lot of pundits on the HSFF show, and they will tell me that, look, Balky, that's great that he can run, but you need to do more than just run. And I get that. But I think he does enough with his arm, coupled with his legs. I think this guy is a borderline top 12 quarterback this coming year. And I am fairly confident in saying on Friday, March 14th, 2025, that this dude will be part of a tandem that I draft in a lot of KFFSC leagues this year. Whether he's my number 1, whether he's my number 2, it does not matter, because I'm going to get the yin to his yang. And I think that Fields is going to be on a lot of my rosters this year. I feel good about it. How do you feel about him in New York?
Balky, you know who the last quarterback throw for 4,000 yards in New York was?
Vinny Testaverde.
Joe Willie Namath.
Oh my God.
This is
I was way off. Ken O'Brien would have been my second choice.
Nothing has changed.
Holy cow.
Nothing has changed. And you know, Rodgers flirted with it this year. Rodgers, that touchdown, was it 28 touchdowns this year, Balky? I'm having a hard time remembering the number. But anyway, yes, Mr. Quima Sujiro. Nice, Janice.
Sujiro Quimikoma. Poor
yes,
Garrett Wilson.
You're damn right. Poor Garrett Wilson. You have to lower your expectations just because of the way Fields is going to play. Can this be a good football move? Yes. It slows down the game. When you play the Buffalo Bills, you want to slow down the game. You want to beat a guy with your feet. You want to hold the ball. There's some things here that I really like about this. Unfortunately, they're just not related to fantasy football. I still believe in the running back.
And I think that, well, we should talk about this here too, because there's people that do not believe in the running back, Ferrell, compared to last year, where Breece Hall was a borderline, not even borderline. We saw him go as the 101 in FFPC drafts last year. He has now fallen to running back 10 at the 211. I think that there is something to be said about Fields and how good he is with his legs in maybe taking away a few rushing touchdowns from Breece Hall. We saw Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis vulture some stuff from Breece Hall inside the 5, and maybe rightly or wrongly, well, not rightly or wrongly, if for sure rightly or wrongly, he has fallen to the end of the second round. This is like almost 2 full rounds later than where he's going. I think there's something to be said about the volatility and the potential to be league winner is too strong of a term, but the potential for a massive lion that is hiding in the weeds in the jungle. Breece Hall at the 211 this year, if he is able to overcome Braylon Allen, if he is able to overcome Isaiah Davis, if he is able to overcome Justin Fields inside the 5-yard line, then yeah, Breece Hall could pay off big time.
We could definitely use some touchdowns for Breece. Boy, the guys were in on him last year, weren't they? I like your idea of Justin Fields as a quarterback to be drafted, but I don't know if I like him here in Kentucky because we won't have best ball by the time you get down here.
Right.
And the best ball is where he's going to deliver for you. I would hate to have to make that decision of do I start him every week because I feel like I'm going to miss on it.
There is something to be said for that. Like if you look at, and I brought this up earlier, but if you look at where Justin Fields could be going once, the ADP settles in, he could be going as a quarterback 11, quarterback 12. And then it's like, do you want to start? Are you going to start Justin Fields or Drake May? Are you going to start Justin Fields or Jared Goff? Are you going to start Justin Fields or Justin Herbert? Battle the Justins. You don't know which way you're going to go.
Get all the Justins. Hey, where's Malachi Corley going? I bet you Brother Armani will tell you that he's essentially free.
He is free right now. I'm looking at the ADP. I am not seeing him. Well, I'm looking at Big Gorilla. Big
Gorilla's fun.
Yeah, it's very fun. I'm going to look up the Never Too Early Best Ball ADP right now with Corley, and I do not see him anywhere.
Fellas, get Malachi Corley on your team. There was an environment last year that just could not support a rookie. He's going to be better. You get him on your Never Too Early team because he could have 3 or 4 breakout games.
We have Derek Cadavid coming up here, the 6-time.
He knows more about this than we do.
He does. But the last thing I want to bring up before I bring Derek on, Corey Walters chiming in on YouTube. Doesn't Justin Fields help Breece Hall? And I think, there's an argument to be said that he will help certain aspects of Hall. I think that to have a young, dynamic quarterback with a different OC and maybe a fresh thinking OC this year. You have Tanner Engstrand coming over from the Detroit Ben Johnson tree. I think there's a lot to be said for that. My concern is once you get inside the 10, once you get inside the 5, Breece Hall is not only contending with Isaiah Davis, not only contending with Braylon Allen, now he's contending with Justin Fields. Last year, he wasn't contending with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers wasn't any kind of threat to run the ball in.
No.
Justin Fields is a threat to run the ball in. That's where I come in on that. Now, Fields could help him in other aspects of the game for sure. But once you get down there, I think that you have to be mentally prepared that, Breece Hall is not going to get every carry and every touchdown inside the 5.
I agree with that. And sometimes they're going to have trouble scoring the ball because I don't know this for certain, but if they had been red zone successful with the running game they had in Pittsburgh with Fields, he probably wouldn't have given way to who knows.
You never know. A guy who maybe does know, a guy who maybe can shed some light on a lot of the subjects we've been talking about tonight is up next. I want to bring him on right now. This is a guy who has won both dynasty and redraft leagues over the course of his career, over the last couple of years. A player that has won a half dozen, and maybe, and quite frankly, when I always total these up, I always wonder, like, God, am I right on this? I might be. I might be wrong on this. He may have won more, but I'll bring him on right now because he had a lot of success not only in 2024, but a lot of success in his career. You follow him on the X at prison_Mike. That's prison with a 5 instead of the S. Prison_Mike. Please welcome onto the show the incomparable Derek Cadavid. Derek, welcome in. Thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight.
He is.
Thanks for joining the show. How you doing tonight, man?
Doing great, man. How are you guys?
we're loving life. We're trying to figure out this Justin Fields, Breece Hall conundrum to let you know where we're at on this. I don't know. And normally when we have a dynasty guest on like you, I kind of look over your teams to figure out, the players you own a lot of, so we can talk a little bit about them. Quite frankly, I don't know where you fall in on Fields. I don't know where you fall in on Breece Hall, but knowing that the Jets, and I'll open this up right now, knowing that the Jets offense is going to be different this year, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. How do you feel about Fields and Breece Hall coming into the 2025 season as opposed to how you felt about them coming into last year?
Yeah, Fields is a guy I've never really been into. Breece, just like Ferrell said, he was a 101, 103 guy last year in redraft. Honestly, I don't like either one. I don't roster any of them across all my leagues. From watching Justin Fields play, he is not the type of guy that's going to dump off the ball probably like Aaron Rodgers or such. If anything, he'll hold the ball too long and then take a sack instead of dumping it off. So, like you said, I mean, if Isaiah Davis, if Braylon Allen, or if Justin, I mean, there's just too many ifs in that offense to figure out who's going to be the guy, right? Mm-hmm. So 211 in redraft, I wouldn't be taking Breece Hall there, just on kind of how I'll play it. I mean, I haven't really checked on who else is going around in that range. However, I don't think I wouldn't be taking a shot on Breece.
So this is good. Let's do this to lead things off, and I promise you we'll get into the regular interview shortly. Let's do a would you rather. We'll go rapid fire on this, Derek. For players, running backs that are going right around that running back 10, running back 9, running back 11 spot where Breece Hall is going. Would you rather have redraft, not dynasty, redraft for 2025? Would you rather have Breece Hall or Bucky Irving?
Oh man, you just asked me about Bucky. I'll take Bucky.
All right,
Randy. But at the end of the show, when we get later on, you're gonna be like, "Well, why are you saying Bucky now?"
I get it. That is a pure industry tease here.
A little industry tease.
Okay, yeah, you set me up.
Breece Hall or Jonathan Taylor?
I'll go JT.
Okay, you're going Taylor.
Yeah,
this is another player that we're going to talk about later on in our interview tonight. Breece Hall or Josh Jacobs? This is redraft.
I'll go with Josh Jacobs, man.
Okay, here's a fun one. Breece Hall or Kyren Williams?
That's easy for me.
I mean, I'll take Kyren. Nothing's really changed over there. Why fix anything?
Okay, Ferrell, is that who you're going with too? Hall versus Williams. You're taking Williams.
Breece Hall or that Kadami Vidal guy? Which one?
A day 3 guy that didn't do anything last year. I mean, I'm out. Hey, Najee.
Breece Hall or Natron Means? No, I'm just the last one, and I don't want to presume I know how you're going to fall in on this, but Breece Hall or James Cook?
That's a good one, Balky.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I'd probably go Breece there.
There you go.
I'll take Breece on those two.
That makes sense.
So we have gotten to know you at a fantasy football level right away. But Derek, before we get into the rest of the fantasy football interview, when you're not winning FFPC Dynasty Leagues, when you're not winning these FFPC redraft leagues, what are you doing for a living, my friend?
Man, I got a lot going on as a stay-at-home dad. My wife and I switched roles. I did 20 years in, between the military and government service. Retired about 3 years ago. Stay home. My 2 oldest, I have 5 kids. My 2 oldest are in the military now. Yeah, and then I have 3 at home, 12-year-old, 10, and an 8. So spending the day with them, doing homework, playing sports and stuff. And on my free time, I'm an orphan guy. Like all my leagues in FFPC are orphans. I still haven't done a dynasty startup in FFPC. I'll leave it at that. Yeah. All of my teams, I've been taking them as orphans on Depot or straight from FFPC. And then the other thing I do on Sleeper, I don't know if I can, mention another platform here. I'm a commissioner.
Yeah, it's no fun. No, it's no fun over there.
I'm a commissioner. Yeah. It's a bit different for the older community.
But I want to
Too
know.
colorful.
I want to know exactly what your regimen is to have 2 kids in the military but look like you're 30 years old. What the hell? But Balky, what's he doing right?
I think it's the military.
You know,
I know
hey,
plenty. Listen, there are plenty of people I
it's-
know of in Northeast Wisconsin who've been in the military for years, like
There's
more
some-
than a decade, and they look like they're about 15 years old. I
There's
think
some
it's just,
proper
I don't know what it
going
is.
on here, and Resnez tells us he's 13. He isn't putting up with this being called 12. That's a teenager. That's a real
Yeah.
man. We're not going to talk about that being 12, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, and I got, when you have your kids stay up late, that's a good sign for your kids' future. Hey, I want to talk about future. I want to talk about the future with the Commanders. When Deebo Samuel left the 49ers, I spent a lot of my time just imagining what 49ers are going to look like. But I didn't really think so much about Washington. I am of the mindset whenever a great player comes into a team that it lifts all boats. Everybody improves. And that's how I would answer this question. But I want to hear what you think about the addition of Samuel's effect on the beloved Terry McLaurin.
Oh man, talking about one of my most rostered players and guy I love is Terry McLaurin. Deebo, I really think it's going to actually help that offense. I mean, you finally bring in another stud, a good wide receiver too for that team, complement what in the run game what Jaden Daniels does, and just keep feeding T-Mac. 5 out of 6 seasons, 1,000 yards. As a rookie, he had 920. So I mean, let's give him a break on 14 games only.
13 touchdowns last year.
That's the only, so that right there is where I'll probably say that he'll regress. However, his target number might go up, right? So kind of complement.
He'll regress off 13 whether Samuel comes to town or not.
Well,
yeah.
It's just Balky, toss up a question for you.
Well, I think it's a good point to understand here. Touchdowns are not sticky. And while we are quick to say, okay, McLaurin, we can bump down in our dynasty rankings and our redraft rankings or whatever, you have to understand too that the amount of time that and I know they were on the field a lot last year, but the amount of time the Washington offense could be on the field because of Samuel could increase. The amount of volume of targets and receptions that McLaurin will have could increase this year because of Samuel. So yeah, maybe touchdowns take a step back, but the volume might take a step up. So and I think that's what I'm not saying. I'm not like saying one side or the other here. I just think be wary of it. If you want to say, well, there's no way McLaurin performs as well as he does in 2025 or as well as he did in 2024 this season because of the touchdowns. Bear in mind the other things that go into it before you make a hard.
Yeah, they may be scoring more touchdowns.
They
But my
could be.
toss-up question for you, Balky: who is the older player, McLaurin or Samuel?
I believe it's Samuel, but that is a good question. I'm going to bring it up right now.
You're going to be fascinated with the answer, and I think the reason we believe it's Samuel is because Prison Mike, we were talking earlier today about playing for the 130 teams instead of the primetime teams, and the Commanders have been a 130 team. McLaurin's not a household name. Samuel is. It seems like we've been watching him a lot longer. But Balky, what's the answer?
McLaurin is exactly. I got to figure this out in my mind.
There's mathematics going on here.
McLaurin is exactly 4 months older than Deebo Samuel.
Isn't that
4
crazy?
months. It is crazy.
Prison Mike, did you know that?
I did not. I was gonna, when you asked the question, I was like, I think it's Deebo. Probably because he's been more in the spotlight, beat up a little more. So you think, oh, okay, he's taking a beating, so he's probably a little older than Deebo.
I think that's the thing is like we think about all the times he was used as a running back with San Francisco. We just figure like he's older in real life. You guys probably didn't know this. Steve Largent, 6 months younger than Amari Cooper. Not making that up. Unbelievable stuff. This is truth that I'm spitting tonight. No, I'm
Seattle's might sign him real soon.
That's another guy. I'm surprised they haven't signed it as Amari Cooper. Like you just brought him up. There's a lot of guys out there, and we'll see where they land. But Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen is. I mean, I know Cooper Kupp got signed by Seattle earlier tonight. There's another older. Brandon Cooks is another guy. That's we'll see where he lands as well.
but I think those are all fascinating. Now, a guy who's younger than those guys, a guy who I was heavily invested in last year, Derek, was Chris Godwin. In fact, I did all I could to draft him in all the leagues possible, and it was looking like a massive league-winning decision. And then he gets hurt on Thursday Night Football, and I don't want to say meaningless play, but it was kind of a meaningless point of the game. I was kind of frustrated with that, but it is what it is. He ups with the Buccaneers for an additional 3 years. He is younger than Mike Evans. He was on pace for a massive year in 2024 if he stays healthy all season. Do you think that now is the time to get out of the Mike Evans business in FFPC Dynasty Leagues? How do you feel about that?
FFPC Dynasty. I mean, the way I play, everything is relevant. You know, if someone's going to throw at me a mid first, 108 and something for Mike Evans, he's gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to sell him for an early second? No, I'd rather have him. You know, Mike Evans is he's played what, 6 years, I think, with Godwin, between Tom Brady and then now going on year 3 with Baker.
Mm-hmm.
They both performed, well and done well in that offense. So, I mean, just another year back, it's not like it's a new guy coming in, to take away from Godwin. We already know how they complement one another. And if anything, maybe Jalen McMillan is the guy that, we kind of saw break out last year. And, there was some comps out there pretty crazy that I saw, like some ARSB, Amon-Ra kind of comps to Jalen. And I was like, no way. So, once Godwin is back, it's them too. I wouldn't be selling for his current, Mike Evans right now is going at wide receiver 32 in dynasty startups that I'm seeing out there.
Mm-hmm.
Give me Mike Evans. I mean, he's a wide receiver 15, 20 guy, and you're getting him at wide receiver 32 prices, a mid-second. So, I mean, that's kind of, it's a cop out answer, depends on price, I guess. It does
depend on price.
Yeah.
I mean,
if I'm a contender, I'm holding, Mike Evans for sure. I'm not trying to tear down to like some rookie, no offense to Ferrell. I'm not trying to go down to like Malachi Corley and a plus or something. FFPC just doesn't, you can't roster too many players. So you just need studs.
Yeah. Short rosters. Like obviously you elite talent over everything else. Glenn Lowy told me that how many years ago. And I still retain that as knowledge here, Ferrell. We talked about the Buccaneers. We talked about this running back earlier in the program, but let's talk about the newest supercharger in Los Angeles.
Your
thoughts,
Najee, powder blue and gold. Does he look great in the uniform?
I think so. Yeah, Najee. It's dynasty stock wise. I think it went up a little bit. The way I play right now, I'm not buying any running back, right? Especially with the class coming in, Chargers are there like picking at the 20 range. They could splash and take, like a day one guy and try to do the Lions Knuckles and Sonic and Knuckles. Yeah, Sonic and Knuckles thing. And then or day 2, they can do the same thing. However, it's probably, like Ferrell said earlier, it's the best landing spot for him. Greg Roman. I mean, what else can you ask for? Guy plays all 17 games every year, 1,000+ yards, can carry 300+ touches. If he gets some, involved a little bit in the pass game, I mean, he's got wide, right there. That's a running back 1. Yeah. If you play all 17 games, get 1,000 yards. Get some passes and touchdowns, which you should get the goal line work. RB1, in the 8th round of redraft,
Here's a Mike. I got one quick question. Your percentage of play, are we exclusively talking dynasty for you, or do you have any of the big gorilla?
I haven't bought into the gorilla yet. Normally when I get into redraft, it's probably like the June timeframe. However, for today's topics, I'm looking at it from a dynasty perspective.
Good. So the percent of play time for you in dynasty is?
I'm in a total of 20 leagues. Okay. In the higher buy-in side.
Okay.
Yeah. And redraft, I'll probably, draft 6 teams in the tournaments, try to, see if I can hit the catch lightning in a bottle,
With that in mind, a guy that's won as much as you, I want to turn this question over to Balky because 2 fantastic young quarterbacks are available. You can ride them into the next 15 years. Balky, ask your question.
Fantastic is an interesting modifier that you use there, because I think that Anthony Richardson has potential fantastic upside.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Jones, I think, was a fantastic bust in the NFL, but yet they're competing for snaps and the starting quarterback gig in Indianapolis. If you do own Richardson, because I don't think there's a lot of Daniel Jones dynasty owners out there, at least in non-superflex leagues here, Derek. But when you consider Anthony Richardson on a short bench or a short roster like the FFPC, are you in wait and see mode? Are you shopping him around? Are you trying to acquire him, knowing that it's probably going to be Richardson v. Jones to try to become the starting quarterback for the Colts this season?
Yeah. In Dynasty, who would I rather roster? Anthony Richardson, just because, like you guys said, the ceiling, his age, right? The draft capital that they invested in the guy. However, I wouldn't be selling him now. It's probably one of the worst times to sell him because he's probably at the bottom of the barrel. I mean, if I can get a early second or something and a throw in there, I'd let him go, just to not get stuck with him in mid-season and then he's Trey Lance or something.
Right.
However, we're talking about like, quarterback 20 and 25, neither one of them has broken like 55%, completion rate.
Yeah. Derek, in a
uh,
previous broadcast, I made the statement that there was I think the statement I made, and Balky, you'll correct me, there's nothing that would ever take me off of Pittman. However, we may have now discovered it. Okay. So your dynasty timing, I looked at a roster of mine loaded with good players, a lot of them on the older side. A player that everyone loves, Tyreek Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Is it time to move on? Is it easy to find a trading partner who will want to grab Tyreek Hill? And what would you ask for him? What would you be willing to take for him, just in a general situation?
So at this point, I look at Tyreek kind of like Mike Evans, right? He's on the older side, and he just produces. Even last year with the volatility and quarterback, he still had a top 20 season. He's still he'll have those nuclear games where he'll just go off with 30-40 points. Just like I said with Mike Evans, am I selling him for his going rate, which is an early second? He's going right now wide receiver 29 from what I'm looking at. Or if someone's going to throw at me a mid first, hey, I'll let him go, right? And I'll with a backup running back or something as a throw in. However, he's a target monster, right? Everything runs through him, Waddle and A-Chain. And they throw the ball a lot. Tua doesn't really move a lot. And who do they bring in? Zach Wilson's. If for any case Tua, keeps on diving head first, into tackles. Maybe Zach Wilson, he'll is better than the 2 guys. Was it Tyler? I can't remember who the 2 guys that they had last year. That was just, you could just see it in Tyreek's face how miserable he was, and didn't like his QBs.
It's a good point.
So, yeah. Again, it's just like with me, the way I play Dynasty is what am I getting them for, and what I'm willing to sell them for, right? So yeah, I mean, it's that mid first, late first with a throw in. I'll sell them, I'll buy them for, and I'll buy them for like an early second. If I own them, I only have them in 2 spots. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to hold them, because I don't think many people out there are paying that first value right now, so I'm holding Tyreek.
It's tough to get any kind of value for a veteran like that in mid-March, right? Like if you want to sell him, maybe you're looking at August or July, right? That's the time to move him. But I'm with you. I think right now is not the proper time. If we flash back, Derek, to 2024 rookie drafts, we saw at the tail end of the first round in most FFPC rookie drafts, not all of them, but most of them, Keon Coleman was a late first-round pick. He was a late first-round pick, or was he an early? I think he was the first pick of the second round, actually, now that I think about this, in 2024 in the actual NFL draft.
Right.
I was excited to see him go to Buffalo. I thought, hey, maybe this is their future number one. Now I look at what Buffalo has done the last 3 weeks. They have extended Khalil Shakir. They have signed Joshua Palmer, I believe, for identical 3-year contracts. They already have Dalton Kincaid, who they soaked first-round draft capital into. And we saw how married they were to the running game with Ray Davis, James Cook, and obviously Josh Allen last year. So knowing all this has happened, and I know I'm leading you into an answer here, and maybe you'll fall into the pool that I'm leading you to. Maybe you won't. But what do you do with Keon Coleman right now, knowing all these things that have happened, especially at the wide receiver position for the Bills over the last 2.5, 3 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, Keon Coleman, or look at the Bills receiving room. How many more wide receiver threes can they get?
At least Matt Collins is not back.
Right? Yeah.
He is a Patriot. Mac is a Patriot.
He's a Patriot. Stay in
the
division.
Patriot. Shoot, barefoot guy.
He may start wearing shoes up there.
Yeah. So in fact, Keon Coleman, he's a guy. I sold him today. In a dynasty league for a future second. It's cut down coming up. I said, hey, he can go for a future second. Barely had 500 yards last season. Played, I think, 13 games. It's just I don't see it. Khalil Shakir, just another wide receiver 3 type guy. Joshua Palmer, the same.
Now wait a minute.
Those
could be fighting words.
Well,
what I do.
Go ahead, Ferrell. Go ahead.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but Shakir now, come on. You got to respect this player.
Okay.
In lineup leagues, Shakir is tough. Best ball. I don't really play much best ball. I can see, where you can capture those spike weeks. However, in a lineup league, guys like Keon, Shakir, Palmer, and an FFPC, I don't know when I'm going to start them. They'll just be stuck in my bench. It's just tough.
Yeah, I think I agree with you in some ways, but in Shakir's case, I think he has set himself in that confusion of what the receivers are like there.
Yeah.
He has set himself separate from that. I think he's going to continue to get better. I very much agree with you. I very much agree with you on Palmer. Palmer's a big guy, but at the Chargers, he played kind of small. You know what I'm saying? He just and I think it's going to be real interesting. They paid substantial money for him. It's going to be real interesting to see what he does. But
just real quick on this, I think what we have to look at, who is the Joshua Palmer signing an indictment of, right? It's the latest thing to happen. They drafted Keon Coleman. They extended Khalil Shakir, and then they signed Joshua Palmer. So who is that indictment of? Is that an indictment of Khalil Shakir after signing a 3-year extension just a couple of weeks ago? Or is it an indictment of, hey, Keon Coleman, our second round pick last year, we don't like the way that he developed, and maybe this is just insurance. I don't know. Maybe, and like I think obviously the way I phrased it, it's probably an indictment of Coleman. But maybe this is like, hey, we ran the heck out of the ball last year. We're probably not going to be able to do that 2 years in a row. We need weapons. This was another weapon that presented himself.
Yeah, there you go.
We're just going to, like, whoever's open, whether it's Palmer, whether it's Shakir, whether it's Coleman, whether it's Kincaid, whether it's Cook, whether it's Davis, whoever. We have a super talented quarterback, and now we just added another weapon. And quite frankly, like, there's some funny money going on with the Palmer contract. I'm sure whatever was reported, he is probably not going to see all of that money. This could pay off for the Bills. We'll see down the road here.
I agree.
Ferrell, I did this for you. I am not asking our guest this week the Packers question. I leave the Packers question.
Wow.
Yeah.
A Packers question for me?
Yeah.
Well, it's a good one because it's a Packer. It's a Raider wrapped into a Packer question. I loved your answer because you line up very much with me, and I want to hear your reasoning because when you talked about who some of the players were you were taking from Breece Hall, and you came in with Josh Jacobs, and that's a fantastic situation with in a great respect for what Jacobs is. And I have, a few years ago on this show, I think maybe 3, Balky, everyone was ready not to draft Jacobs just because the Raiders had him returning kicks in a preseason game. We can't be overreacting, but we sure can react to what we saw last year, which was a tremendous year for Josh Jacobs. Are you bullish about this player as you continue the power scheme and the way that they run the ball in Green Bay? Do you like what you have in Josh Jacobs?
Oh, I mean, that's another easy one for me. I mean, he's probably my most rostered running back. Ever since he joined the Raiders. Quiet, another 1,000-yard type of guy, RB1 seasons. No one respected him. I did a lot of pivots to Josh Jacob types with the sexier running backs to collect some tax on orphans that I was trying to get some depth with them. And why would the Packers change anything? I mean, if anything, give him some more targets. Man, if they increase his targets, he could be a top 3 running back. He was running back 6 this past year. Without as many targets on his going his way. I don't know if that's how, if Jordan Love doesn't play like that, or I've seen Jaden Reed gets some running work, in those plays there in the backfield. However, yeah, I'm bullish, man. I'm buying, Josh Jacobs. Granted, he's gone up in price. He'd probably still late first in Dynasty. You could probably get him. I'd be willing to pay that. People probably still want like a mid first for him. I probably can work my way up to that. So I believe, he was great in the Raiders. He's better in Green Bay.
I think the Packers are going to be fascinating to see what they do this year. I think the thing that makes them most fascinating to me is knowing that Friday night game in week 1 where Jordan Love gets that knee injury. And I'm convinced that listening to beat writers here in Green Bay, listening to his fellow teammates talking about how he never really fully recovered from that knee injury. I'm talking about Jordan Love, that he suffered in week 1, which quite frankly, a lot of us, myself included, I thought it was a season ender. I thought he was done for the year. And then he came back in, 3 weeks or whatever it was. I think that the Packers, by necessity, were forced to turn into a power running game, and they had the offensive line to do it. They obviously had the bell cow to do it with Josh Jacobs. Now, what happens if Jordan Love is fully healthy this year? Do they move away from that? I'm sure they'll lean on it, but I don't know if we see necessarily the volume we see from Jacobs in 2024. Do we see it in 2025? And maybe that's a good thing, because sometimes we see with decreased volume comes increased efficiency. And that could be something that we're looking at in 2025, where maybe he doesn't touch the ball as much, but he's actually still increasing his fantasy prowess, and he's increasing his points per week on that. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I could see it either way. That's what I think is so fascinating about the Packers this year, is to see how Matt LaFleur, Adam Stenavich run this offense with a healthy Jordan Love going into 2025. Ferrell, let's get into the final question we have for Derek tonight.
Oh, the final question. We might have teased one out of you, which means, Prison Mike, that you're going to have to think on the fly, because you cannot use a player that we've already talked about. So I want to know, who's your go-to guy? We've heard a lot about guys that are rostered. Who's a guy maybe that you are most proud to have? Like for me, that would be Shakur, because I believe in Shakur. So maybe a guy that you're most proud to have. And then a guy that you just won't touch. A guy that if you have him on a dynasty team, you're getting rid of him. If you see him on one of those orphans that you so kindly want to go out and adopt, you're not going to take that orphan. You'll take another. Who's that player?
So a player I won't touch. Man, Pickens is one that comes to mind.
Wow.
I'll buy him cheap. However, I don't know. Maybe from on like the human side, just the antics and I don't know, like certain things that just kind of throw me off. I know he's a volatile guy there in the community. There's either guys that love him or they just hate him. And my go-to guys, I mean, it's those wide receiver twos, the non-sexy players that I can sell a sexy wide receiver or a sexy running back and pivot to McLaurin, Godwin, Evans. I know you asked me for one in particular, Lamar Jackson. Last year, Lamar, I have a lot of Lamar, and in Superflex and in 1QB. And he won me several weeks. I mean, he carried me on a lot of teams. So
that's not going to change, is it? You expect that this year, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, Lamar, he's top 3. You can rotate him between Josh Allen, Lamar, Jaden Daniels in the top 3 startup picks, Superflex Dynasty draft.
When you're putting your roster together in Dynasty, and you have what would our good friend Terp call him? A hero quarterback. There you go. That's Terpes for best player. A hero quarterback like Jackson. What do you do with a backup quarterback?
I didn't get that last part.
What do you do with your backup quarterback? What in your dynasty? Because you're talking about limited roster, and you've got me thinking about that. Limited spaces.
Yeah.
When I see a dynasty team with 3 quarterbacks, I think that's kind of a little bit crazy. What do you do with a quarterback spot when you have a Lamar Jackson on your team?
So I have 2 1QB teams with Lamar. I don't have a backup. Like once they get, depending on when his bye is, I'll pick someone up off waivers and just start that player. I'll probably pick him up like maybe 3 weeks in advance. That way no one's like, sniping me or something on waivers. And I'll just hold them and, then drop the other guy and keep riding Lamar.
You talk with great respect about these Tampa Bay Bucks. What are you doing with Baker Mayfield?
I love Baker Mayfield, man. I mean, he was my late QB last year, right? Round 18, 19, 20. And I was like, man, Baker doesn't get any love. And he was one of those guys that I also had a lot of in redraft and in not too much in dynasty, but I did have him a lot in my redraft teams, and he paid off well. I really like Baker. And again, nothing's changing. He's still got playing with the same guys, Godwin, Evans, Bucky White, Otten.
McMillan.
Yeah.
Would you roster Justin Herbert anywhere?
I like Justin Herbert, especially with the way he's been playing with Greg Roman, and let's see, he's a backup in a few of my 1QB leagues where I don't have like a stud, quarter. Yeah. So I'll rotate him with like a Dak or trying to think of another decent player. Stafford. Yeah, Goff, Stafford, types. But yeah, I really like Justin Herbert. He's good kid, a good offense now. Hopefully they bring in some. I'm not a fan of bringing back Mike Williams. I mean, whatever. But Lad McConkey, great kid. Najee now is a good power back and that can also do some receiving work. And whoever they bring in the draft, is going to really help out Justin Herbert.
Yeah, could be Colston Loveland, could be like Jaden Higgins or somebody in the second or third round as far as wide receivers go. As long as we're talking about dynasty quarterbacks, let me just throw this at you. If somebody offered you Jaden Daniels straight up for Lamar Jackson, what would you do? Would you accept or reject that trade?
I mean, the way I look at that, if you send me that offer, right? If I have Lamar and you're sending me Jaden Daniels, right? Yeah. You're telling me that Lamar's better. So I'm going to ask for something on top, right? Because you're already giving me the free information. Like, hey, you think that Lamar's better? Okay, you gotta then I'll be like, hey, you just gotta add something, bro. However, in a vacuum, they're not much different, right? I mean, Lamar has more density, more he's done it for more years in a row. However, if I had to pick, I'd go Lamar, right? He's done it more times. Jaden did really well year one. However, Strode did really well year one. Justin Herbert did really well year one. Then year two kind of fell off. So, I mean, he's a guy that I'm willing to tear down from, right? Jaden Daniels versus Lamar. Again, just like I said, though, if you that example you're giving me, you throw that trade at me, I'm like, oh, you just gave me free info. Yeah. Add in a second or something, and you got a deal, right?
This is why he is the fantasy football orphan teams repairman. You follow him on the X at prison_Mike5 instead of the S in prison. Prison Mike is his username on the FFPC. He is once again Derek Cadavid joining us tonight. Derek, so much fun. You gave us free information. unsolicited, which
I
we
know, man.
which we appreciate.
Yeah, I'll
And
probably get some trade, some offers tonight. Yeah.
Which could be good and could be bad. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
how it's going to
Hey.
work out. But listen, man, congratulations on all your success in the FFPC, especially in 2024. Good luck in 2025 and in Dynasty and redraft and everything that you got going on. Thank you so much for carving out a little time on your Friday night for us. And we will talk with you again soon, man.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. That is Derek Cadavid joining us tonight. Once again, prison_Mike. The 5 is the S in prison on the X. That's where you can follow him there. Prison Mike is his username in the FFPC. Woo. A lot of good stuff. Ferrell, I know like this is what is this year 4 for Dynasty for you or year 3?
Yeah, I can't remember that far back.
Okay, well, it's right around there. And certainly we not only learned a lot about Dynasty tonight, but I think like as far as how we're handling certain players in redraft leagues, Derek gave us a lot to chew on.
Yeah, and it might help me get away from my self-imposed grade of a C-.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm giving an A+. The KFFSC, KFFSC.com, main event registration, whether you want to do slow or live, it is up there. Whether you want to play in the Draft Masters slow via 2-hour or 6-hour, it is up there right now at KFFSC.com. Big payback, auction leagues, all available at KFFSC.com. Again, a lot of these, I shouldn't say a lot, but a significant amount will be live in both Northern Kentucky and Louisville coming up in August. But if you want to join and draft now, you can definitely do that over at KFFSC.com. Good time to be a Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship fan.
Yeah, Balky, we're waiting for you to come down here and clean up this season.
Yes.
And it's going to be wonderful to have you in the building. And there's some guys that have listened to us on the show. There's some guys that have joined us on the show, and perhaps we'll see some of them here. And old mainstays like Christian and Hicks. They'll have Oinker's family there with them,
Right.
Oinker too, and on down the line, and it'll be great. But I'm looking forward to it. Talking with the guys. This week we're beginning to get more conversations with the players, and then they're making their plans. It'll be here before we know it.
It will be. KFFSC.com. Get a jump on your drafting season right now, too. So when everybody else is drafting in June, July, August, or whatever, you are already entrenched in it, and you have the upper hand. KFFSC.com is where to go for that. Ferrell, no show next Friday, but we're going to do a show on Wednesday. So I will talk with you Wednesday evening, my friend.
Buddy, I'll see you on Wednesday.
You got it. That is Ferrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. I want to thank not only him, but Derek Cadavid, who came on the show tonight, the FFPC, Rob, Bryce, and of course, each and every one of you for listening, watching, streaming, downloading, ingesting this content that we have provided for you tonight, any which way you have it. We will be back next Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Again, no show this coming Friday. We'll do a show on Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. In case you missed last night's High Stakes Fantasy Football show on the Better Sports Network, we had Dynasty League Football's Matt Price on at Matt Price FF on the X. A lot of good stuff with him last night. We got into I said we set a record because I load up the rundown with a lot of stuff I want to talk about. We oftentimes don't get to everything. And I think we set a record last night because Matt and I probably got to maybe 15, maybe 20% of everything I had on the rundown because we just fell into rabbit holes of trading and trading strategies and player evaluation on a lot of veterans who changed teams and some who didn't change teams with NFL free agency and how that affected them. So there's a lot there. BetterSportsNetwork.com, Better Sports Network socials, FFPC socials. You can watch that. And we'll have another live show on that this coming Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. The Never Too Early Best Ball and Superflex Best Ball tournaments available at myffpc.com. $40,000 and $10,000 grand prizes available respectively. $125 and $35 entry fees for those. Those tournaments are going to run all the way up to April 24th, which is the first day of the NFL draft. 30-second, 60-second, 2-hour, and 6-hour clocks available at myffpc.com. Pick up a Dynasty Orphan Team or more than one. myffpc.com. Entry fees normally range between $77 and $5,000. They have been lowered quite a bit, sometimes in some cases to $1. So basically have a free dynasty team this year. Think about this, 1,800 plus leagues over the course of 15 years. No leagues have ever folded with the Fantasy Football Players Championship. So once you join an FFPC Dynasty League, you are in for the long haul at myffpc.com. Big Gorilla tournament going strong as well. $1 million grand prize, $350 to enter, a $50 discount for every third team you buy. Drafts already running, both slow and live. The early Rampage tournament is going live right now. So if you register for the Big Gorilla tournament, your team is automatically entered into the early Rampage tournament as well. It is 2 tournaments for the price of 1, and you are also eligible for the 7 Bananas promo as well, which could pay up to a Jungle Safari for 4. More details available at myffpc.com. You can win a Jungle Safari and $1 million. What other competition is doing that right now? Spoiler alert, there isn't one. This is what you want to be doing right now. Sign up for the Big Gorilla at myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which will be next Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour with Ferrell Elliott and myself. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I certainly appreciate it. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
You know, people were asking me, I think earlier this week, the Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament, Never Too Early Superflex Tournament, they're roughly only 40% full right now, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but keep in mind that those tournaments are going to end in less than 6 weeks. So make sure you're getting in while you still can, because there will be no Never Too Early tournament come April 24th. The other thing regarding the Big Gorilla, we do still have several leagues available right now. If you want to sign up for the Big Gorilla, you will be in that early Rampage tournament right now. If it gets close where it looks like, hey, you want to get in before those 200 leagues fill up, I will send an email to the entire FFPC insider list, so you will know when we're getting close. But I would encourage you to jump in right now and make sure that you are entering not 1 but 2 tournaments, because come May, June, July, that will not be available. So this is the time to draft in that Big Gorilla tournament. Okay, sales pitch over. Have a great weekend of drafting, everybody. I'll talk with you again on Wednesday night. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate each and every one of you.